American dream. It's the belief that anyone who makes an honest effort has the opportunity to succeed and prosper. Many work hard to achieve this goal, while some find ways to cheat the system in order to get rich quick. This was the case in the 1920s, when one man would create an elaborate plot that would damage lives and dash the hopes of those who entrusted him with their life savings. Charles Ponzi moved to the shores of Boston, Massachusetts in 1903 with only $2.50 to his name. For years, he toiled at odd jobs all over New England. He first worked as a restaurant waiter, but was eventually fired for shortchanging his customers. Then, Ponzi tried his luck in Montreal, Canada, where he found a job at a bank and worked his way up to become a bank manager. But once again, he got himself into trouble after he wrote a check to himself from another man's checkbook. Ponzi would serve 3 years in prison before returning to the United States. But as soon as he arrived, he found himself thrown in jail again after he was caught smuggling Italian immigrants. After his second stint in the slammer, Ponzi received a letter in the mail that would present him with yet another opportunity to take advantage of the system. The letter had come from Spain and contained an international reply coupon. This coupon was designed so that the recipient of international mail could buy a stamp for their reply. But Ponzi figured out that Italian stamps were cheaper than American stamps, and that a small profit could be made. He thought he would simply go to the post office and cash in the IRCs, so he sent money to his relatives back in Italy to mail him some more. There were unexpected setbacks, as the coupons couldn't be redeemed, but this didn't stop him from convincing potential investors that his idea was profitable. And thus Ponzi's plan was set in motion. In 1919, he began his new business, the Securities Exchange Company, and investors started lining up. Word spread quickly that Ponzi's company could yield very lucrative returns. He promised to double their money in less than 90 days. People were handing over their life savings and mortgaging their homes, and they were reaping fabulous returns. But instead of cashing out, they continued to invest at Ponzi's urging, which meant that he didn't have to pay out any dividends. Banks that had turned him down for loans the year before were now begging for him to become their client. His fledgling company soon expanded across New England, and Ponzi was becoming very wealthy. By March of 1920, he had earned $30,000, and just 2 months later, he made an astounding $420,000, which would be worth millions today. Almost overnight, Ponzi had become a millionaire, and the Securities Exchange Company was now a major success. But not everyone was convinced that Ponzi was operating within the law. In fact, some were growing suspicious. That July, a man filed $1 million lawsuit, which caught the attention of the Boston Post. The Post then began publishing articles questioning how his company could make such remarkable financial gains. To investigate Ponzi's company, they hired Clarence Barron, a well-known financial analyst and owner of the Wall Street Journal. Barron found that Ponzi would require 160 million coupons to raise the cash required to support his business. But there were only 27,000 coupons that existed in the entire world. The number of stamps needed to earn the staggering sum of money that Ponzi was making was nowhere near the amount that was actually in circulation. In fact, he discovered that Ponzi wasn't even invested in his own $1 million company. To offset this negative press, Ponzi hired William McMasters as his publicity agent, but soon enough, his plan would backfire. McMasters discovered incriminating evidence about Ponzi's company, and instead of handling the situation on Ponzi's behalf, he renounced his client and brought his findings to the Post. The man is a financial idiot. He sits with his feet up on his desk, smoking expensive cigars in a diamond holder and talking complete gibberish about postal coupons. The investigation revealed that his new investors' money was being used to pay dividends to his original investors, and not from his alleged profits. And it was also discovered that Ponzi was now over $7 million in debt. The racket was exposed on the front page of the Post on August 11th. And on August 12, 1920, Charles Ponzi surrendered to federal authorities and was charged with 86 counts of mail fraud. He had lost an astounding $20 million and was responsible for the collapse of 6 banks. After everything was said and done, a final audit of the business turned up a mere $61 worth of coupons. The world had learned a very expensive lesson, and it became known as the Ponzi scheme. Which is why it's always wise to remember that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Did you know? Bernard Madoff committed the largest financial fraud in U.S. history when he bilked investors out of $18 billion with his financial company. In June of 2009, he was convicted and sentenced to 150 years in prison. In the late 19th century, settlers were moving west across the uncharted United States in search of a new life in a land that offered promise and hope. They were ready to make a fresh start, but the one thing they didn't foresee was the volatile weather that would change their lives in an instant. In January 1888, snowstorms and unbearably cold temperatures swept across the Midwest, and on January 12th, something very unusual would occur. Smack dab in the middle of winter, the weather took an unexpected turn. It was unseasonably mild. People went outside without their overcoats, and children shed their jackets as they headed off to school. Winter seemed to have vanished. In the Dakota Territory, Sam Glenn stood on the roof of a weather station and observed a sunny and pleasant day. It was warm outside, with temperatures above freezing, but to the west he saw ominous black clouds rolling in. The air was immediately filled with snow, as fine as sifted flour, and the wind veered to the west with such violence as to render the observer's position very unsafe. By midday, the combination of gale winds and heavy snow created blinding conditions all across the Great Plains. A few weather stations reported that temperatures dropped 18 degrees in 3 minutes, fluctuating wildly by as much as 100 degrees in 24 hours. The wind gusted up to 80 miles per hour, knocking down trees, blowing off roofs, and creating giant snowdrifts. The storm came on without warning and struck at the most inopportune time, while children were still at school. Some teachers immediately released their students to race home, while others kept them inside to ride out the storm. In Pawnee City, Nebraska, teacher Seymour Dopp made a critical decision. As the storm began, he kept his students in the schoolhouse. They stayed overnight, burned stockpiled wood to keep warm. The next day, parents made their way over 5-foot snowdrifts to rescue their children. His instincts saved 17 lives. And in South Dakota, 2 heroic men managed to save a group of children who were trapped inside their schoolhouse. The men tied one end of a rope to the nearest house and the other end to the school. The children, using the rope to guide them, made it to safety and survived. But one of the most memorable stories of heroism during the children's blizzard was that of Minnie Freeman, a school teacher in Myra Valley, Nebraska. The storm hit at the end of the school day, and Minnie and her 13 students were trapped. As the blizzard grew stronger, conditions at the schoolhouse worsened. Windows were blown in by the heavy winds, and frigid air and drifting snow now surrounded them. Panicked, but appearing calm for the sake of her students, Minnie Freeman had to act fast. She knew the children wouldn't be safe if they stayed inside the school. Looking around the classroom, she discovered a ball of twine on her desk. One by one, she fastened twine around each student, preparing them to brave the storm together. Every step forward was a struggle on their arduous journey to safety. The students were freezing as the driving snow blew directly into their faces. Through her perseverance and determination, she managed to guide the children safely home, saving the lives of all 13 of her students. Though many people were saved during the blizzard, others were less fortunate. To this day, it is considered to be one of the most deadly winter storms our nation has ever faced. The storm was named in remembrance of the 100 school children who never made it home. But by sharing these tales of valor, like that of Minnie Freeman, we will never forget the children's blizzard of 1888.
Hi, My name is Sydney, and I go to Pierce School. This is about Albert Einstein, the famous scientist, born on March 14, 1879. When Albert Einstein was young, he was very cruel to his sister and would hit her with a hard ball and struck her head with a hoe. Later, when he was young, he moved to the city of Montage. Albert didn't fit in school. He was the odd boy. Albert didn't like what other boys liked. When Albert was 15, he went to high school, and then later on went to the army. Albert did math wherever he went, no matter what. In 1902, Albert went to the position of Expert 3, a class of new inventions. Albert made stronger energy and light. Albert's discoveries, effects, and theories of relativity and E equals MC2. Later, Albert won the Nobel Peace Prize. That's how Albert became a famous scientist. Albert was funny looking and had great white hair.
Did you know there was another blizzard in 1888? On March 11th, one of the greatest blizzards in American history struck New York, New Jersey, and parts of New England, dumping anywhere from 2 to 5 feet of snow and leaving 50-foot snowdrifts in some areas. Is there some folklore in your town? Well, let us know about it. Send us an email, folklorist@newtv.org. We'd love to hear about it.
Hello, my name is Folklorist Maryellen, and I'm going to tell you about Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall was born in London on April 3rd in 1934. As a child, she fell in love with animals when her father got her a stuffed chimpanzee named Jubilee. Once, as a child, she made a worm farm underneath her bed. She didn't go to college. Instead, she went straight to Gombe Stream National Park at age 26.
Every morning, I would leave camp and follow the same path.
Jane Goodall actively studied chimpanzees in Africa. She learned a lot about chimpanzees and how they use tools from nature. Now she is a well-known chimpanzee expert and still continues to save many chimpanzees and learn a lot about chimpanzees. Jane Goodall is a very interesting person.
Stay put, please. There's more to come on The Folklorist. Disclaimer. With folklore, sometimes the biggest casualty is fact. But please, keep watching. It's 1776, the height of the American Revolution, as the Patriots are pitted against Great Britain in their struggle for independence. General George Washington, commander of the Continental Army, has just marched his troops back from Boston to New York and is preparing for a British invasion of the city. But his battles weren't just fought on the front lines. They were also served to him on his dinner table. Samuel Francis was the owner of a popular tavern in New York City that was frequented by military officers and the elite in colonial society. But the tavern was used for more than just entertaining. It became a common spot for Patriot meetings and was located near General Washington's headquarters. The owner proudly served meals to important political figures, including the general himself. As legend has it, Phoebe Francis, the owner's daughter, worked at the tavern and also served as Washington's housekeeper. She was introduced to the general's personal bodyguard, Thomas Hickey, who came to America as a British soldier, though he soon deserted them, joining the Patriot cause. But in reality, Hickey was a double spy, still loyal to the British crown. Thomas quickly grew fond of young Phoebe, and before long, he fell in love with her. Trusting Phoebe wholeheartedly, Thomas laid out his plan to assassinate George Washington using his favorite dish, a plate of peas. Thomas's plot was soon set in motion, but there was one thing that he didn't account for: the conscience of his beloved Phoebe. He asked her to serve the deadly meal to Washington. His instructions were to mix the peas with a poisonous green powder and serve it to him at an upcoming dinner party. But upon learning this, she decided to reveal the threat to her father, who swiftly informed the general. On the night of the feast, dinner was served, and Hickey watched as Phoebe placed the peas in front of Washington. But instead of taking the anticipated first bite, he tossed them out the window, becoming a deadly feed for a nearby flock of chickens, who in his place fell victim to Hickey's lethal plan. Because of Phoebe Francis's loyalty to the American cause, Washington's life was spared. And on June 28, 1776, Thomas Hickey was arrested, tried, and sent to the gallows for mutiny and sedition. He was then hanged before a large crowd in New York City, becoming our nation's first military execution and sending a daunting message to any future conspirators or rebels. And so General Washington would go on to win the war and serve 2 terms as our nation's first president. Who knows where our country would be today if it weren't for Samuel and Phoebe Francis, 2 ordinary American colonists who protected George Washington from a fatal dish, saving his life and preserving America's future. Did you know, while walking along Brandywine Creek in 1777, British sharpshooter Patrick Ferguson came upon 2 men. One was wearing the uniform of an American officer. He leveled his rifle, but decided not to fire. It was not pleasant to fire at the back of an unoffending individual, so I let him alone. George Washington would live to fight another day.
Hi, my name is Folklorist Ralf. Today I'm going to tell you the story about Barack Obama. Young Barack was born on August 4th, 1961, in Honolulu, Hawaii. He went to college in Los Angeles in 1979, then transferred to Columbia University in New York City and graduated with a degree in politics. When I was born in 2004, Barack Obama became senator. In 2008, he became the first African American to be a president. And I want you to help the United States.
What if you saw something incredible, and others did too, but you just couldn't explain it, and you had no proof, and some people refused to believe you? Well, when a story lies between fact and fiction, it becomes folklore. And that's what happened to some high school kids on spring break in 1977 in the small affluent town of Dover, Massachusetts. 17-year-old Bill Bartlett went out for the evening with 2 of his high school buddies. As he drove along Farm Street with the music blaring, Bartlett noticed something moving along a stone wall at the edge of the road. There, he caught a glimpse of a creature with an unusually round head, long spindly arms and fingers, a pale complexion, and glowing orange eyes. He turned the music down. "Did you guys see that?" "See what, Billy?" "That thing next to the road." His friends turned to look, but they saw nothing, and convinced Bartlett to turn the car around to get a better look. But when they returned, whatever he saw was gone. A few hours later, 15-year-old John Baxter was walking down Miller's Hill Road, about a mile from Farm Street. As he strolled under a streetlight, he noticed a small person coming towards him. But upon closer look, it wasn't a person at all, and whatever it was ran into the woods. John chased after it into an open field. There, peering into the darkness, he saw the same odd figure clutching a tree. It wasn't human or like any animal he'd ever seen. Baxter hurried back to the road and ran straight home. He sketched what he had seen, and the image that he drew was very similar to the entity that Bill Bartlett claimed to have seen just a few hours earlier. Then, the following evening, young Abby Brabham and her boyfriend Will Tainter were driving along Springdale Avenue. Along the roadside, they saw a creature crawling on all fours with the same characteristics that Bill Bartlett and John Baxter had described, except that it had glowing green eyes. Once again, the elusive figure vanished before they could get a closer look. And that night, Abby made a sketch of her own. In the following days, word spread of the bizarre sightings, all within the same area. Reporters swarmed over the town seeking answers. Authorities vouched for the credibility of the young witnesses. But when the hype finally settled down, no one could provide a satisfactory explanation, and no definitive evidence ever surfaced. The creature was dubbed the Dover Demon by a young investigator named Loren Coleman, and it hasn't been seen since. Its true identity still remains a mystery. But one thing is certain. All three witnesses made claims that were nearly identical, and to this day, they stand by their stories. There's more to come on The Folklorist. Did you know, in January of 1967, some boys, while playing in the DELL at STUDHAM, England, claimed to have encountered a little blue man who was wearing a top hat or a helmet. They chased him, and he allegedly disappeared into a yellow mist. We hope that you enjoyed these episodes of The Folklorist. The stories that we presented were intended to educate, enlighten, and inspire you. And we'll be back again next season. We hope that you join us, because we are the Folklorists, and this is the new history. Until next time.
NewTV's original program, The Folklorist, has just won its second Emmy Award. Congratulations to John Horrigan for his win in the program Host Moderator category. And congratulations to the production team and cast for creating a captivating and inspiring program.
Hello, friend. Welcome to The Folklorist.
The Folklorist, only on NewTV.